Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Knife Nuts Podcast, a show that brings you the best and worst that the knife community has to offer. Tonight we are joined by the insanely talented father and son duo, William and Eric Tuch. It's impressive because I didn't tell you guys what they're talented at. You know, be interesting to find out. So how's everybody doing?
I'm alive.
I'm ill, but I'm here. I'm okay.
William, Eric, welcome to the fold.
Nice to be
We're
here.
happy to have you. So, what's new in everybody's knife world?
Not much for me, actually, this week. I had my yearly Losing My Nice Pen event, which seems to happen just about once a year. I will lose the pen that I love and use every day, which is probably the most important part of my EDC gear. And this year, I replaced it with a tactile turn slider. It's a bolt action pen. It's my first bolt action pen. It's titanium. It's nice. I really like it. I've seen like mixed reviews, but I guess I'm not enough of a pen weirdo to be upset about it.
You lose your pen
it
on
just
a yearly
happens.
basis, and this is an event to you?
I mean, I know it's coming. I know it's going to happen. So I just prepare for it by having like $100 set aside to buy a new pen because it's the most useful thing.
$100 pens.
I mean,
You know,
how often do we use our multiple $100 knives in comparison to how often we use a pen? So
multiple hundred, yeah.
Yeah, thousands.
Talk about first world problems, right?
Seriously, yeah. So, so I generally try and replace it as soon as possible because I find having a pen is much more useful than having a knife, surprisingly. So yeah, I like the one I got, and it writes nicely. I thought I wanted to switch it out for a regular refill. It comes with these Schmidt Easy Flow, which is kind of like a hybrid rollerball ballpoint, but it actually writes so smoothly that I'm kind of getting used to it. My handwriting is still fucking terrible though. And
so do we get into the age-old question: what's mightier, the pen or the sword?
I have like 50-something knives and one pen. I use my pen more, so I'm gonna go ahead and say the pen. There's the definitive answer, but
he loses it once a year.
Yeah, and I've never lost a knife, so go figure.
I don't know. I didn't cut myself with a pen in the kitchen last night.
The irony is strong.
It's always a concern. And then the other thing is I got my Sebenza back from Chris Reeve, and I know I do the whole bit about being obsessed with them, but I had the blade replaced, and they charge you extra to replace the thumb studs. Like, if I'm having the blade replaced, just throw the thumb studs in for free. Jesus Christ. It was an extra $35 to get the dual thumb studs replaced, so I spent $190 to have the blade replaced on my Sebenza.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
You could get a whole new Sebenza for that.
Yeah, for about $150 more, I could have just gotten a new knife. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be that expensive. I didn't think that they didn't include the thumb studs when you get the blade replaced.
Also, I would also like to point out that we've made it maybe 2 minutes into this podcast, and we have two incredibly talented knife makers on this show, and you've mentioned Chris Reeve within, I don't know.
Well, I mean, this is just gonna happen. We're 10 episodes in. It's not gonna change, guys. It's gonna happen. Just get used to Chris Reeve being brought up. I mean, that's what I primarily carry. But yeah, I was not super thrilled about my $35 thumb studs. So that's it for me. I'm trying. I've been spending most of my time looking at phones. So that's my new obsession currently.
Please let's not get started in that.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah, seriously.
But that's quite a short list compared to last time, buddy.
Yeah, well, sometimes I realize I should probably try and save money and not spend 9/10 of my monthly income. So, I'm trying to make good on that.
Yeah. Jake, besides the plague, what else have you got?
I carried nothing more than the plague today, actually. It was so bad that my wife had to come home from work and nurse me, so no knife in my pocket while I was in bed coughing 20 to 30% of my lungs out. And I don't know, I guess the closest would have been the Typhoon, the Nadeau Typhoon on my nightstand, the field grade one.
You've been building, what do you call it, quadcopters.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it's not that I haven't received any packages, it's just that they weren't knife related, and I was ill today, so nothing terribly exciting. I'm on an electronics kick, I guess, at the moment, so that's where most of my obsession obsessive time has been going lately. We kind of come and go.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Well, some of those things are coming out really good.
Yeah, it's comfortable because the materials we're used to dealing with on a daily basis are titanium and carbon fiber and 7075 aluminum, and even if you delve into flashlights, a lot of that carries over, and this is really pretty much all the same. It's all just carbon. No titanium on the quads yet, at least. But believe me, I find an excuse to make a titanium to something that breaks. I definitely will, and I'll send you a picture.
Speaking of which, I got a new flashlight.
Did you?
I did, and I have to tell you, it is flipping badass. So I got one of the, I think it's like one of the only two that have been delivered.
Why have I not
just
seen this?
now?
You just gonna
I posted it
drop this
last
shit on
night.
us? Oh.
Yeah, I just posted it last night. It's
Okay.
the Astrolux MF-01. I just want to daydream about
Christ.
what MF is stands for, but this is a 12,000 lumen, and I think what did I say it was, like 15,000 candela, and it has
53,000.
53,000 candela. Yeah, thank you. And it's 18 Nichia 210s. What was it? Nichia. Where were they? Hold on. Either way, it's got 18 emitters in it, and it's bright as hell.
It looks ridiculous.
I think it's actually more useful and brighter than the DT70.
Oh shit! I mean, all of the flashlight
that would be
companies, all of the companies seem to over-deliver or over-promise on the lumens and under-deliver.
One thing I can say with the utmost certainty is that the build quality makes the DT70 look like it's made of paper mache.
I mean, it does look like the base of a flashlight. I'll give you that.
Yeah, did you see what Jim Skelton's comment was? It was
Oh
actually
god, is it the exact same thing I just said?
It's very similar, but it was. I mean, it references the vagina.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to cut that part out. I don't want to be making the same jokes as Jim Skelton.
It wasn't the same joke.
Okay, thank God.
It was funny. Anyway, other than that, yeah, Brian.
Question for you. Do they burn in after a while and get lighter, or do they kind of stay consistent throughout the life?
Ooh, are you asking if LED emitters have a break-in period?
What a good-looking question, Brian.
Good thing Jake has the plague, so he can't even explain it.
That's why I asked it tonight.
Don't make me laugh because I will start coughing. I'm going to be on mute the whole night, by the way, because I'm coughing intermittently. But for once, I don't have too much to say about it. But it is very likely that a lot of them do have something like a break-in period. Not all of them, but it's possible. That's all I'm going to say.
That's
and I doubt
rather
stress.
concise, Jake. Rather concise. William, Eric, do you guys dabble in any other hobbies, so to speak? You know, like Jake and I, we dabble in the flashlight thing. He also builds quadcopters, as I mentioned. But what do you guys like to do other than make amazing knives?
As far as collecting things, it's not really anything that I've personally been a part of, but definitely living in the Pacific Northwest, there's a lot of outdoor activities, and one of my biggest hobbies is going out and mushroom hunting, getting golden chanterelles and lobster mushrooms.
Well, that's awesome. Mushrooms are pretty freaking amazing.
Make your way out to the coast, go crabbing, get some fresh Dungeness, get some oysters. You know, it's all about outdoor stuff for us, I think.
What do you use a 12,000 lumen flashlight for?
Anything I want.
Oh,
yes,
are we breaking up?
Especially when you're camping, if you need to start
anything you want,
and you don't have matches, you just use the flashlight to light some shrubbery, and you're good to go.
Here you go. Burn some paper and get it started with the 12,000.
Now we do like a seamless transition.
I'll do that. I'll do the elevator music again.
Never happened.
Never happened.
Not IT guys, come on.
So what you're saying is, you know, outdoor stuff over there actually means outdoor stuff.
Yeah.
See, what we do is we go outside and shine flashlights at each other. It's basically 12,000 lumen tag.
That flashlight tag, yeah.
Yeah.
You get the International Space Station with that thing?
Or Jake's neighbors, and they end up getting pretty pissed.
Yeah, so yeah, making knives and going hiking, getting things, having some fun in nature. I've started doing some duck hunting recently. Step up into the outdoor activities. I got myself a 20 gauge shotgun, and I've been going duck hunting.
Oh, nice. What
That's
kind of
all.
20 gauge did you get?
It's a Stevenson. Pretty nice.
I've never actually fired a 20 gauge.
It's nice. I kind of prefer it to the 12 gauge. It's got just as much power really, and it's easier to control and aim.
Yeah, here in PA, 20 gauge is actually the holy grail because we have some abnormally strict rifle regulations for deer hunting. So a 20 gauge slug gun is actually superior to all of our other options.
Shotguns for deer, exactly.
Yeah, no, they sell rifled slugs for a 20 gauge, and Savage makes a really nice bolt action model, so you really get the whole experience as though it were just a regular old bolt action rifle, and it's good out to about 125 yards, I would say, even though it's a technically smooth bore. Smooth bore gun.
That'd be a hell of a way to go out.
Yeah, right.
With a 20 gauge slug, yeah. It sounds very humane, actually.
Yeah.
It's much more humane than the plague that you're currently going to die from.
Yeah, as opposed to slowly dying from the plague and watching my. Well, I don't have to watch my kids get it because I actually got it from my kids, I think. But
there we go.
My poor wife.
I'm surprised I don't have it because Lana basically sneezed into my mouth yesterday.
Yeah, that's where I think I got it. Was pretty much the same thing. Like her idea, I have a 1-year-old whose idea of giving you a kiss is to stick her nose in your mouth, and so if she is sick, you're definitely getting sick.
There's hope for you. I think it's 48 hours for gestation.
Oh, yeah, I'm doomed, right? Basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically.
Just wait.
All right, well, we made it 10 episodes, then 2 of our podcast hosts died. This is a good run.
Well, I'll keep my word though. If we know I'm gonna die and there's no cure, I'll at least, for the good of the show, make sure that it happens on air.
Yes, thank you.
So we'll stick to that plan.
Yes, thank God.
And I expect the same of you.
Brian, what do you got going on over there?
Making knives, getting them out. It was a good week. The morons were at a minimum this week.
Oh, wow. It's a rare good mood we caught you in.
Yeah, when I can make knives and people pay me and they ship out, that's a great thing.
Do you guys share those sentiments, William and Eric?
Oh yeah.
So first, let's start out with an easy, a little softball question. Tell us a quick maybe customer story.
A customer story.
Mm-hmm.
About a shitty customer.
About a shitty
customer, or you want us to talk shit about a customer?
Oh yeah, both.
I didn't hear that part of the show, so I didn't know that's what this was all about.
Well, see, this is how you get warmed up, and then you can actually talk about who you are and what you do.
Perfect. I don't know. What do you think, then?
I don't think I've had a bad customer.
Very fair.
There we
that's
go.
no
That's
Your customer.
the diplomatic way to handle it.
Yeah, that was very diplomatic. But let's get right into it then. So tell us about yourselves. I think you guys have a pretty deep following within the art knife community. In fact, you guys were one of the first, William, you were one of the first makers that I remember when I was researching knives and I saw some of your deco inspired models, and I just ended up drooling on the keyboard half the time. I mean, they're amazing looking pieces. And when I heard you guys were jumping into the tactical folder, see what I did there? It was, it's pretty interesting. So I would love to hear, and I'm sure everybody here would love to hear the story.
Well, it's funny because the story is kind of opposite that. I learned to make knives in Butch Valentin's shop, making switchblades and assisted openers.
Oh wow! So you were tactical right from the get go.
Well, I don't know. I tried to buy a knife from a company called Ballot and Knife Company, and 20th wedding anniversary, and you want to get me a knife? She said, get on the internet, find something cool. So I found this million hidden release automatic, and it was like, I want one of them. But I couldn't find them for sale. And I looked around. I found the name of the company that made them was Ballot and Knives. And a little bit of research, I found a phone number. I called the phone number. Guy answers the phone. Hello? I said, is this a Ballot and Knife Company? And he goes, yeah, this Butch.
So what?
Before then, I thought knives are made by, like, I had no idea that people were actually involved in it.
So what year would you say this was?
Oh, geez. 2000, early 2003, 2004, somewhere in there.
See, at that time, I imagine that you would be what Dave called a filthy casual, because at that time, now we have these folks that go around on Instagram and find, like, say, one of your fancy knives, and they say, how much? Or where can I buy that? And those are the people that Dave refers to as a filthy casual. And we all have a filthy casual period where we try and figure out, oh, these knives are made by people. And in a lot of cases, made by hand. Oh, and they cost actual money. So it's like this series of things that you realize before you become aware and part of the knife community. So that was your...
I never intended to be a knife maker.
Right.
That was not my intention. After talking to this guy Butch on the phone, it seems we had a couple of common friends, from the fishing world. I was a fishing guide and a fisherman, and it seems we had what a
small world.
Yeah, he said, what are you doing right now? I said, well, I'm, just Mr. Mom right now. Fabrication shop in Redding, California. We moved to Portland. And he said, what are you doing? I said, nothing. He said, well, why don't you come on down? It was about 2.5 hours away. So the next morning I went down, hung out with him all day, gave him a $100 deposit on a $325 knife, and asked him when it was going to be finished. His reply was, when are you going to be back to work on it?
Oh my gosh.
Making knives.
Oh, that's cool.
That's amazing.
I remember seeing, it's one of the first custom makers I ever saw was Butch Valentin, and I'm not sure if they're family members, but a bunch of people with the same last name as him, and they're Mosaic Damascus, and I always was just like amazed.
Sons and grandsons. And it's just one.
His son Rainey and was Sean, and who passed. And you have Thomas, Butch's son-in-law, and you have Rainey's boys who are now involved. And
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a huge family affair. It seems.
It is.
Yeah, they always just have the most crazy looking Mosaic Damascus, and they would use mammoth tooth a lot and mother of pearl, and I was always so amazed by those and just complete awe.
And it's funny because you could always tell a Valentin knife.
Yes.
And no matter which one of them made it, it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely a Valentin.
Exotic blade shapes and a lot of Mosaic Damascus is what I think of when I think of their knives.
It's funny, William, that that was the guy who got you into it, because you definitely have a cleaner aesthetic, I would say, than a lot of the stuff that he does.
Well, I kind of went a different direction. I mean, I was in a shop for about 4 months. I built about 4 knives. My first knife was an assisted opener using his kickstart mechanism, and then I went to a dual action push button, and then a couple of scale release. It was Eugene knife show. He said, bring your knives, we're going to the show, and it was okay. And people bought them. I said, why? He said, well, go look around and see what else is out there. You do good work. So I went around, looked around, and said, okay, I see what you're talking about. What do I do now? He says, go home, put together a shop, and get the hell out of mine.
So you had, at this time, you were living in California, or you were already in Portland?
I was already in Portland.
So that's an interesting city to be in any sort of creative field, especially now. And through the past 2 decades, I mean, it must have been interesting to see the renaissance that's happened there.
The influx of people coming from all over the country and creating traffic. Yeah, I've seen that.
Well, there's a lot of knife companies that are in Portland, production companies at least. So there's a lot of influence there.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the world and you say, well, it's the Pacific Northwest, it's Seikei, Japan, and it's Stalingrad, Germany. Those are the 3 main knife cities.
Yeah, seriously. So when you first got started, when you were working with Butch, were you doing the same kind of things where you're using all hand tools to make the knives, or were you using more power tools then, and then sort of as you got better went to doing everything by hand?
Well, I mean, in power tools and by hand, what where do you draw all the line there? I mean, CNC to, well, I've worked with grinders, I've worked with drill presses, of course. Surface grinders have to be used.
Yeah, definitely.
You need to mill a slot here, or control your depth there, for a counter bore. So when it comes to the filing, that came a little bit later. I'd met just on one of the forums a guy named Tim Herman, and we used to talk on the chat room, and he said, I really like that knife you posted. I'd love to see that thing. If you'd send it to me, I'd take a look and send it right back. And I didn't know who the guy was, and okay, I'll take a chance. We've kind of been friends on forum, and I sent him the knife, and he checked it out and sent it back. And it was kind of interesting. He asked me about trading knives. One of his knives, one of my knives.
There you go.
Still didn't know who the hell he was. I called up Butch and I said, "Hey, Butch, you ever trade knives with other makers?" He goes, "Well, we always kind of talk about it a lot, but we never really have."
No one actually does it. Yeah.
Said, "Why? Someone wants to trade knives with you?" I said, "Yeah, some guy named Tim Herman." And then I heard a change of tone. He says, "Tim Herman?" Okay, who's Tim Herman? We just became friends, and next thing I know, I was on a plane. He came out to Portland, spent a few weeks with us, and we built a couple of knives together, and that was kind of the start of...
And for those of you that don't know, Tim Herman is pretty much a legendary knife maker. He's done a lot of slip joints. He works with a lot of crazy materials as well. You can look up his work. Yeah. I highly encourage
Tim does
lockbacks, engraving, artists, all medium. Amazing.
Very
work.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the stuff now.
So you guys take a little influence from everywhere, coming from, if, Tim was one of the people that was one first to recognize the work that you do, and then coming from Butch Valentin's shop, that's a crazy couple of knife makers to get you off the ground.
Yeah, kind of opposite sides of the spectrum, I would say.
Seriously, which is kind of ironic since you're now coming full circle with this new Axis flipper that you guys are working on.
Oh, hey, I've even built 2 straight knives that don't fold or switch or do anything.
Fixed?
Straight knives.
Fixed
Yeah, built 2 of them.
Imagine that. I'm still waiting for Brian to get a couple fixed blades going too. We are not opposed to fixed blades here. We love them. Except for Dave. Dave sucks. Don't listen to.
I like folders better.
It's like they're broken, Ben.
I think there's a lot more you can do with folders artistically. So I'm not upset that you guys only make folders or primarily make folders.
And before we get into the Axis flipper, I want to talk a little bit more about your art knives and how you go about the design process and maybe choosing materials, because you guys have used some pretty crazy stuff yourselves.
Basically, I've really stuck to how do you take a piece of plain stainless steel and work within it rather than putting a bunch of materials together to create the art. How do you create the art out of one type of material? Mm-hmm. And I've done that with fluting and carving and textures and layers. I think that's really the biggest test. Is everyone can take beautiful mosaic Damascus and Damascus and pearl and all these different materials and put them together and make them look spectacular. But what if you only had one material to use? What do you do then? And that's where I came in and just kind of started following the lines. Beautiful girl, just look at the curve of her bottom or whatever it is. And you start working on a line, and you see that line, and that line becomes starts growing into a 3D image.
Well, I was going to say, for someone who just stumbled upon a knife maker's shop and decided to do it one day, you sure have a good eye. Like, there is a true fine art quality to the pieces that you make. I mean, what is your background from that? You said you had a fabrication shop. Like, do you have an artistic background at all? Like, what's happening here?
Oh, well, I used to, I had a fabrication shop where we just, do general welding and manufacturing. I mean, conveyor lines for Louisiana Pacific or grates, storm drain grates for the city, or, so, there was nothing artistic about that.
It's like as utilitarian gets.
And I did enjoy taking all of my scraps. I would have leftover or pieces that looked like crescent moons or this, that, the other, and I'd start putting them together, and I was building, like cocktail tables and chairs and things like that. But I mean, that was just for fun. And until one day, someone walked in to get something welded, and they said, "Are these things for sale?" I said, "Sure." They said, "Would you sign them?" What was that for? So there are a few pieces of furniture out there with my name on them.
So you accidentally became a furniture maker, and you accidentally became a knife maker.
No, the furniture was just what do I do with the scrap metal?
I call that accidental.
Sometimes you get something in your mind's eye and you just kind of chase it. And, the reason I've learned to do the type of work that I've done with the carving and the textures and working with lines is I've always just kind of chased that vision that I had inside my head. And to do so, I had to learn different skill sets. And honestly, I'm still not there, but maybe I will be one day.
I think you're there, for sure.
Yeah, I think you've made it. But here's an interesting thing: is you were talking about the idea of taking one material and turning it into something with depth and playing with light and things like that. This is not something you hear your average knife maker talk about. You see variations in color using one color material, and combining things in just the right way is something that you don't hear a lot of makers talk about. You hear about the newest type of blade steel, or the fanciest Damascus, or something like that. It's taking something like stainless steel and making it look soft but sturdy. It's pretty interesting.
Well, it's the difference between, putting a buff finish on a piece of 416 stainless steel rub all the way up to 8,000. It's a different color. And you see two pieces laid next to each other. One is buffed and one is hand rubbed. The hand rubbed piece looks black in comparison to the buff piece.
Yeah.
It's just a different look.
There's no saying one's better or the other. It's apples and oranges. It's just a matter of preference, but that's how things happen around here.
I mean, I really love the just solid stainless steel handles, because I think most of our listeners and most of us are kind of stuck in the tactical world where a fancy knife means just using a bunch of Damascus and having a lot of really flamboyant colors and patterns, whereas you guys have done a lot of stuff where I don't even know how to describe it. It sort of looks like it's just one piece, but it actually is a folding knife. And I really love. I'm looking at one of these knives that has like 4 different textures or finishes on a single stainless steel handle, and it really makes it look like it's something else entirely. It's really very interesting, especially being so used to such pedestrian finishes on tactical knives.
Side note: Dave's favorite book is actually 50 Shades of Grey.
I do like. I like the color gray a lot. I'm not a big color guy, so this is much more my style than Damascus, which is what I find so attractive about these knives. There's a lot of restraint shown in terms of like finishes and coloration, but it still has so many small, like intricate details. And that's what I really love about these.
We try to carry that into our tactical knives and our flickers and our flippers. The Sparrowhawk design, which is actually an old design, the fluting that we'll put on the front of that bolster there, that's all hand fluted and hand polished.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We're moving branching back to the tactical market, but we're still trying to incorporate, some of the art techniques that have been developed over the last 10 plus 15, almost 15 years of making knives.
I think there's definitely room for that, because I can't think of anyone else that's really doing that much. Maybe David Technies or David Broadwell. I can't remember his name. David Broadwell, I think is his name, and he was an art knife maker who did some tactical styled folders, and you could tell where his influence was coming from. And it's very apparent with you guys that you have experience making truly incredible art knives and translating it into tactical knives, which, you know, is kind of what's still hot right now. I think the market's definitely gone down. So could you guys talk about what the art knife market is like? Because tactical knives certainly have had a real boom in the last couple of years, but I know nothing about what the art knife world is like personally.
The art knife world, I mean, there's a difference between having a business and having a passion. And if you're going to be an art knife maker, it's all about passion. It's, you know, you can't. It's not a great living. It's there's no way to recover the number of hours that go into a piece. You know, I've sold pieces for, you know, upwards of $16,000, and at that point, I was making about $12 an hour.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
You know, you know, you just can't imagine how many hours go into a simple piece. You know, a simple carved piece, you know, could be 180 hours, and to sell for under $4,000, you know, that you're talking about an entire month.
I was trying to think of a way to ask you a very juvenile, what was the most expensive knife you've ever made? And the way you just presented that really hit home, because that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, you know, you have if you're going to put hours and hours into a piece, you have to charge for those hours and hours. Otherwise, you know, you're crazy for doing it. In the tactical world, I see, you know, a lot of beautiful work out there. There's a lot of guys who are really coming into their own. They're starting to use more natural materials. You know, take Lee Lerman for instance. I mean, Lee's, you know, starting to use a lot of pearl, a lot of natural antique woods. You know, and you see how he's working those into his pieces. It's interesting to see the crossover, because it seems the collectors are really, you know, the collectors are really going after that crossover market. It's like they want to be art knife collectors, but you know, the tactical market is there.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm glad that you mentioned Lee Lerman too, because he's someone that comes up a lot on this podcast, and we're all genuinely big fans of his. Me especially. I actually own one of his Hydras, and I really do think that that's a great modern expression of a art knife / tactical folder, and I see a lot of that same idea coming from you guys now, which is, and I think you hit the nail on the head, because I really do think that that's the way the market is going. We had Ben from Blade HQ on a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the way the market was going, and talking about the resurgence of simple traditional knives made with modern materials. And what I think is interesting is that you guys are going the opposite direction and taking, you know, fancy old world materials and making modern knives, like things like mother of pearl and woods and things like that, and stuff that's been traditionally used in knives, and taking it to a whole other level, which is pretty cool.
the market's pretty much where I left it when I went to the art world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people were interested in the fancier folders. You know, the folders with a purpose. You know, the more, you know, a nice handle. You know, but it still had beautiful materials. And it's kind of like I'm almost seeing a full circle there. No, it's an interesting world out there.
It is. And
The art knife world has slowed down a bit. A lot of people either passed away or completed their collection. So that's one of the reasons that we've kind of taken a step back into the tactical world as well.
And Eric, I'm glad you spoke up about that, because it's I want to hear your take on this, coming from, you know, how did you get into what your father was? Were you just always there in the background and sort of, you know, followed his lead, or were you pushing him from, you know, from that perspective too? How did you come to work with your father?
Well, I wasn't really interested for the career. I had my sports and martial arts that I was doing, and I was going off to college. And a couple years into that, I came back to Portland, and I jumped back into the shop. I started to learn what he had been doing for the last decade, and
I just found a fine line Sharpie. I'm like excited.
it's the simple things around here. So yeah, I mean, at that time he was only doing lockbacks. It's only been that's where I started, was doing the most difficult thing, and what I would consider the most difficult thing, doing the old school taper pin lockbacks, the carving. You know, the level of quality that he has put always been something that I've had to strive towards and really develop an eye for. And now that I have, it's kind of like I can't do anything at a subpar level because I can see exactly what he's seeing.
Wow.
If not anything better, because he has astigmatism in my eyes, or 2020.
The truth comes out, William.
So I a few years ago for Blade Show, I made my first knife. It was a little tiny lockback art knife. Pretty, didn't have the proper geometry, so it didn't quite work right, and so I never sold it. The next year I came back with a bigger one, a little bit more detailed than the next level, I guess, from a step up from my first one. And from it's just been about 3 or 4 years now, just being in the show and in it completely, really. For I'm now 100% part of the business. We've spent the last getting our new shop space and actually living space built. We found an old warehouse building. We got the second floor that had nothing in it, totally gutted. We framed walls and built the shower and kitchen and got our shop in here. We're finally just getting things put back together and really working on the task at hand and trying to get some knives made. It's been really cool to branch back into this new market and meet all the new collectors. Everyone's very tight knit and friendly. We made our way down to G9 to check out the gathering for the first time this year. Just jumped in the RV and went down for a night, and it was awesome. It was one of the best shows I think we've ever been to. I'm really, really excited trying to get a table for next year for that.
That'd be cool.
I wish we were able to get out to G9 this year.
Yeah, wrong coast. Eric, I had a question for you. So what's it like getting into art knives? Were you always like a detail-oriented person? Because I can't imagine what it's like to go from not making knives to having to work on these incredibly intricate pieces and have to train yourself to have such an eye for like these small things that most people, when they're first getting into this, would totally miss or whatever. So was that a rough transition?
He had no choice. He had to, because if he didn't see it, I would. He didn't want to hear me.
There we go.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if there's any I think you're maybe reaching for a natural ability or a gift, or maybe it runs in the family and some sort of genes involved with it. But I don't know. I've enjoyed it. It's become a passion of mine. You really have to love what you're doing if you're going to be doing something like this. And it's just something that I've had to develop, that I've had to learn to see and learn to and make things to the best of my ability. At this point, I'm doing everything though. We do everything together. Every knife that gets put out has some part of us.
Wow.
You guys definitely seem like you have a great relationship, but I'm curious to know how often it comes to a point where you're going to kill each other.
No, never.
Oh no. Yeah, that's definitely. Glad you brought that up.
Did we tell you about the reality show coming?
Yeah,
This is it.
This is kind of it definitely has gotten to that point. This is it's not an easy thing to learn, and learning anything is frustrating, because really when it comes down to it, it's just making mistakes until there's no more mistakes to make, even though that never happens in knife making, because you always make another stupid mistake. There's no way to make a knife without making a mistake. So it's been a frustrating process.
Come on, there are no mistakes in knife making.
Yeah, there's
new designs.
New designs. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You're not the first knife makers I've heard say that.
Yeah, that's definitely key.
A handmade knife is nothing but a series of mistakes until you call it good.
Happy accidents, right?
Absolutely.
But it's definitely not all not all days. What's the best expression? It's
Not all sunshine and roses.
yeah, not all sunshine and roses. It definitely gets tense sometimes, but we're definitely working towards getting to a point where we can just be living comfortably in a cycle, getting things finished and not having to worry about who's going to buy the next project and this and that. That's one of the biggest things for the last decade or so, is that my dad has never really been books oriented. He never really wanted to take orders because he was just working towards the vision in his mind. He just wanted to make what he wanted to make and from there. But as far as a business goes, that really doesn't translate very well unless you have a very large group of collectors that are constantly in need of your work. But for knives that are 1,000 to 2,000 plus, that's just not really something. There's not that many people out there that are buying that expensive of knives.
Yeah, definitely.
It was something that I was going to ask. I always imagine like your average art knife collector just has like 24 Rolls Royce or something like that, and he calls up William and says, "I need a knife. Tell me more about knife. I need new knife. Money, no object."
Yeah, exactly. Just send me deal and it's okay. Yeah.
You do have those people, but then you have. I have clients who have multiple pieces of mine, and they're construction workers. They're auto mechanics.
Yeah,
People
that appreciate the work.
They just what's the word? I mean, they love it. They covet it. They covet the work, and they
absolutely
save, and they say, "This is what I want. This I want this. How can I buy this?" And then you get people who really, really surprise you who buy them. And you guys know E. If you know E from the shows. Yeah, Hairless Twinkie on Instagram.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Oh, right.
Yep.
He bought one. A little Warncliffe of mine, one of my little art knives. It just blew me away. And he's not putting it in a safe. He's using it. He's
Oh my gosh.
Himself, videos of him cutting beans with it, getting ready for dinner, doing this, doing that. It's like,
that's awesome. Yeah,
that's just what you want to see, is someone who, who's just a student in school who spent $3,200 on a knife of yours and using it every day. It's great. It's absolutely.
Now he just needs to now he just needs to follow Dave's example and lose one once a year. So you have to make him a new one every year.
That would be a little more than $100 to put aside to replace that one, though.
Yeah, probably. What I am actually. I have a picture of him using. I'm looking at now. I'm kind of surprised to ever see someone use something that looks that like that much like an art piece. Have you guys ever had to refurbish any knives? Because I think this is a thing that's been coming up a little bit recently in the tactical knife world. A lot of knife makers are getting kind of sick of people asking for refurbished requests for their knives with, with no compensation, just like expecting people to do quote unquote spa treatments. Have you guys had to refurb your knives? 'Cause I imagine it would be extremely difficult or time consuming to go back and replicate some of these finishes or go back and touch it up after it's been done.
Touch.
Good one.
At least you pronounced it.
Yeah.
No, I have refurbished a couple of my own knives. I've refurbished these once already, and he's probably going to want to do it again sometime. I've refurbished other makers' knives, which I don't know why I've done, but no one else was willing to do it or could do it. I don't know. Was trusted to do it.
Yeah. Well, I would certainly trust you.
Maybe you should send your Chris Reeves to William.
I won't trust myself. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
I can't even imagine how time consuming it would be to have to redo some of that work after you've already done it.
I get frustrated and throw that $60,000 knife across the room. Come on.
Come on. Has that happened? You have thrown one of these knives across the room. I know.
Oh, is this a truth session?
Yeah, I mean, we need to hear this stuff. This is need to know information.
You guys will love this one.
Oh, God.
Let's hear it, Dad.
In 2008, I won my first Blade Show Award for handle design. 3 months before that knife had come off the buffer. I was touching up the blade on the buffer. It came off the buffer and went through the drywall.
Oh my
Oh
god.
God! Oh my God!
I pulled it out of the drywall and threw it through the drywall again.
Oh.
I folded it up, threw it in the safe, and closed the door.
Oh my god!
4
So you
months
basically-
later, I'm going, what can I take to Blade Show?
Oh,
Said,
God.
And I changed the design a little bit, and I cleaned it up. It won best handle design Blade Show.
No way.
So,
That's awesome.
Well, it just goes to show that mistakes can just be new knives. Apparently, it is true.
always. That's I told
It's
you.
important that you violently launched it through a drywall too, not even through it.
Oh no, it was fairly violent. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
That's good.
that's
There
fantastic.
was a little profanity going along with it. Just for that little extra zing. Yeah.
So for
I
the
don't know if it made the night scene any better, but it sure helped me.
hey, I mean, if it won an award, then it certainly did make it better. But it was
Well, when you get punched in the stomach like that, I mean, and you've got 230 to 260 hours in a piece,
yikes.
and something goes drastically wrong, pretty much end up on the floor. It's kind of hard to breathe.
Man, I can't even believe that. How long that's so incredible. I mean, because I don't know if that is the average amount of time that people in the tactical world spend on making their custom knives, but that it's really eye opening to see the other side of the spectrum.
Hey, Brian, you got something to say about that?
Yeah, no, we don't spend that kind of time.
There we go. I don't look like an asshole now.
Well,
I wasn't wrong.
I was taught early on. I had some. I had one collector in particular, Don Gill, art knife collector, who's not really out there much anymore. But he pretty much gave me the information I needed, and he told me it was all about fit and finish. And we talked about one of the knives of mine that he had bought from me, and which in my eyes was perfect. But I learned a lot from that conversation. And in my eyes, fit and finish is fit and finish. If the grain on the finish isn't just right, you don't have flat surfaces mating up against each other. If you have any kind of gaps, you have, in my mind, it has to be right or it can't be. I know in the tactical world, I know there's a lot of, it doesn't matter. We're going to be using the knife on and on and on, but it's one of the things that's kind of ingrained in me throughout my knife making that I just can't get away from. Right. What you do with it after it leaves me, that's fine. But when it leaves me, it's right.
Yeah, Brian's famous line for that is, "You can throw it in a lake for all I care." Actually, it sounds more like this: "You can throw it in a lake for all I care."
Really, Brian?
What'd you pay me for it? Yeah, if that's what you want to do, go for it.
Yeah. There you go.
I mean, that impression was spot on, wasn't it? I have to say.
That's pretty good.
I hadn't heard the original, but I can already tell that was pretty right on.
You can all kiss my ass.
And we had Brian in a good mood before.
Yes, now he's pissed off.
So how are you guys going to be doing? So I thought it was interesting that you've never wanted to really get into doing books because, well, I don't know. Sometimes that's standard, but also sometimes that ends pretty poorly for people when they take books. But how are you going to do it with the Axis, with the new tactical knife? Is that going to be something where you're actually going to take custom orders, or are you going to just make some? And
No, we'll take custom orders on Axis. We have a list of people active, an active list of people who want work. It's taken us a while to work towards that list, getting set up. A lot of what we've been building has been, towards a show, or hey, we need to work on this, so we're just going to put this together, and then it'll be available for whoever wants it. Just honing the design, doing things, such as that. If someone would like an Axis knife, they're certainly welcome to give us a call. We are opening our books. We haven't, we never officially opened our books, but we are we are opening our books to future orders.
We're in a whole process of rebranding right now. I'm working on getting the website updated. We're getting YouTube going. We're getting Facebook more involved again. And that's part of the process, is just getting to the point where we're going to be opening our books up and getting to the point where we have our next year's worth of work already lined up in front of us.
Yeah, a lot of being a knife maker these days is knowing social media, because it seems to be...
Absolutely. Seems like one of the biggest things lately, is just knowing how to work it, getting your followers up, and getting people into seeing what you're doing, giving people an inside look.
Yeah.
Actually being social, getting out there, going on to podcasts with a bunch of crazy people. That's pretty much how this goes.
A knife maker, we're only social 4 or 5 times a year at the shows, okay?
I'd say you're doing pretty good then.
Yeah. You couldn't tell. You guys prepared well then.
But I'd like to talk a little bit. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Axis folder itself, because it's a little different for us. We're used to, especially maybe the people that we know and the crowds that we hang out with. We're used to makers who are doing a model, and it's usually a variation of the same model. But for you guys, each Axis folder is basically going to be its own bespoke item at the end of the day, right?
Everything is one of a kind. Everything's handmade. Yeah, at this point, there's no CNC or laser cutting or anything like that. It's something that we may move towards in the near future, just to be able to try to keep our price range to the point where literally in our market as possible. But as far as things being one of a kind, everything is a one-off. Even if it's the same model, it's going to be slightly different.
So what is the basic construction of an Axis folder? Tell us a little bit about what the influence was, the design purpose, and everything like that.
The design, it's really I did back in 2008. It's a piece that a lot of tactical guys had always said they'd like to see as a tactical knife. It started out as a side lock, a carved side lock, and it was a fairly good knife. And I worked with that because it was very appealing to people in the tactical world, and I created a flipper out of it. Worked on geometry. We have the geometry down, detent, everything. A little bit of slight recurve on the blade. Nice little detail on our finishes. We're using different materials, Damascus. We can go off the pearl. I think we may throw an extra rear bolster on as a custom feature.
Inner frame inlays and the scales, incorporating more and more art knife techniques.
But the one I keep going back to look at is that hidden hardware prototype that you did. That thing is unbelievable.
Oh, the gold?
The blue, purple one.
The blue.
The blue. Yeah. That's
the blue and the gold, but the blue one is the one I'm speaking of.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
You take a look at the new one.
Yeah, that is gorgeous too.
The Switchblade.
That's right. We're coming out with new designs, new mechanisms. Just been worked on the last couple of months to get a new dual action mechanism together, and that's one of the main projects that we've been working on.
Hidden hardware, scale release, dual action Switchblade.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
With front and rear bolsters.
Nice.
Oh my god.
I think I'm looking at it now. Autos are certainly coming back into vogue now that the laws are loosening up in a few different places. So
Absolutely.
It seems as good time as any to start doing it. I mean, yeah, this is awesome. I mean, this is just the kind of stuff you don't see.
It's been full circle.
Yeah.
Come on. What's more fun than sitting in traffic, opening and closing an auto? There's nothing like it.
Spoken like a true knife guy.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of doing that and then cutting myself while driving and then having to find the nearest bathroom to go bleed in and try and patch up the wound.
You use a flipper, but eventually that skin on the tip of your index finger starts getting worn and red and sore. With an auto, you don't have any of that. It just opens the same speed every time.
Yeah, the dual action does add a little bit of a variety to the fidgeting. Who needs a spinner?
Yeah. I think people will really dig the dual action. I remember when Matt Diskin came out with the dual action Fuller, the Fire. People really love that, and there hasn't really been any dual action knives since then. At least not ones that people have really been interested in. So I think that'll be really cool to see how that plays out.
That came out of the Velatin shop too.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in fact, when he gets back from Paris, he's planning on coming out, and we were two together.
Oh.
He was going to down from Seattle, from where he lives up there.
Well, Matt, he's great with the knife materials too. Do you guys get a lot of your carbon fiber from him too?
He has carbon fiber.
Yeah. Is that a secret, or we're not supposed to say that?
Yes, no, that's a very sarcastic response. You get that a lot around here. He definitely gets material.
Matt's carbon fiber. I've used other carbon fibers over the years, and Matt's is so solid. It works so well. When you're grinding it, when you're working it, there's nothing chalky about it. It's just solid, hard. It's okay. There's my plug for Matt.
He gets a few on here, to be honest with you. He's actually a listener. He listens to this podcast, so say hi.
There you go.
Hey, Matt. I was just kidding about you coming down. You don't have to.
That would be very cool to see a collaboration between you guys.
That's another
absolutely.
thing that we're going to be doing this year is doing a few collaborations with a couple of different makers. We've got something going to be going on with. Oh, okay, I guess we'll save that for a later date. We've got some collaborations coming. I'm sure everybody will be very excited about it.
It will be really cool to see you guys use your skills that a lot of other makers don't necessarily have or not trained in on their designs. I can see some very cool things happening. I can imagine.
Absolutely.
The possibilities are pretty much endless there. Just the fluting alone is something I've always found really, really cool. Is the fluting.
I just like to say fluting.
I mean, it's gorgeous. It's something that, I mean, people do it with CNC. Brian Ty does it really nicely with CNC, but the fact that it's done by hand, it's kind of hard for me to even understand how it comes out. It
boggles the mind.
It really does. It's just one of those things. Yeah,
file and sandpaper.
I have no mechanical skills whatsoever, so like seeing this come out this well, just like it amazes me.
The guy can't even keep a pen in his pocket.
Hey, not my fault. One of them was at the airport.
Is that the bolt action pen you're talking about? He can't even keep it in his pocket?
No, that one I have, but I've also only had it for about a week, so we're doing pretty good there.
It's not his pen he has trouble keeping in his pocket.
Yikes.
Wow.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. No, we
This I've got to tell you, this has been the most clean episode we've ever done.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, let's change that.
Yeah, there hasn't been one mention of bestiality whatsoever.
Yeah, this is great. It's a nice reset for the podcast.
The funny thing is, you can see what's happening right here with a bulldog and a Rottweiler. It's just,
that
video, it would all be different.
You guys are way closer than I originally thought.
Oh
man.
Okay.
Was that enough bestiality? Should we keep going?
Keep it coming, guys. No pun intended.
We usually do have a little bit more than we should in the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm. How big is the axis? It looks like it's pretty big, but I'm just guessing, dimension-wise.
They only caught the last part of that about how big is it.
Of course, I was talking about the axis knife. It's a little. I mean, I think it's probably pretty big from what I'm guessing from these pictures.
No.
The original Hidden Hardware one was.
Oh yeah.
Was close
4.5 inch.
Yeah, close to 5-inch blade. So it was a larger version.
Oh, I had no idea.
That we've been making more is I think 3 1/8, so it's just over 3 inches. So it's a more moderate size, better for carrying, I'd say. And
I had no idea. Oh, that's great. Yeah, because people are definitely going in that direction these days, it seems, with smaller knives.
Yeah, it seems like smaller is getting more and more in demand, even closer to 2 inches.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Dave's really excited that smaller is more in style.
No, I am a big knife person. I am a big knife person. I have to overcompensate.
Come on, we're only talking knives.
Actually, I'm really interested. I want because usually you see the art knife world and you see these pictures of them online, then you see them in person, and they're like, "Wow, that's way smaller than I thought." I didn't know that hidden hardware one was like nearly a 5-inch blade. That is a beast.
It's a beast. Yeah, it's a massive knife.
You guys have to bring that to the New York show. I need to see that thing.
There's only 2 of them. There's only been 2 of them made.
And do you have them still, or are they gone?
I'm in possession of either one.
Oh.
Damn.
Someday we'll make another one.
Yeah, maybe once I
mission one.
maybe once I settle on a place to live, I can actually get back on that list.
There you go.
Is price something we can ask about? Is that something you guys have decided on yet? Because
On that large knife?
or just on the Axis knife in general, just a general price range,
that
maybe.
large knife those were just 2 prototypes I'd done.
Yeah.
Those were not, those were, in the 5,000 range for those 2 knives. For the regular Axis, we're trying to keep the regular Axis knife, somewhere around, $1,600 as a base price, and depending on materials and what else we're doing to it.
So curious to hear from collectors, and we're figuring out where pricing is one of the most difficult thing in the knife community and the knife making business. So
yeah.
And it's tough. I mean, it's very difficult to keep the price of something like that at $1,600 as an entry level. I don't even know how you do it.
as far as you think it's too high or too low?
I think it's too low.
Well, it's funny because the knife is meant to be it's 70 thou liners. It's
Oh, wow.
an 8-inch hardened stop pin, and the stop pin is counterbored into the liners and secured from the outside with screws.
So it's a fixed stop.
It's a fixed stop pin. It is a solid. I mean, we laugh all the time. Oh shit, I dropped it. But if you drop it, you aren't going to hurt it.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tank of a knife. It's got beautiful lines, I think, and
As far as the price range, a knife is really only worth as much as someone's willing to pay for it. So we're just trying to
Absolutely.
find that medium where everyone's going to be
We'd
happy in the deal.
we'd like as many people who would like to have one to have one.
I think that's totally fair. That's right around I think what Lee
Sure.
Lerman does, and it's very much in that same wheelhouse of the completely handmade, completely custom, but tactical
granted,
styling.
we haven't made very many of them for $1,600.
No, I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, why would you want to
I've
get
ever made $1,600.
when you guys can do all of that? Why would you get the boring one?
This, they want that, and they want the other. Or we put this on it, we put that on it. Got to have a floating,
You got to have a flute on the pocket clip.
on and on. So and everything takes time. And honestly, the materials that we use as knife makers aren't that expensive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you look at it, break it down. How much titanium is there in a knife?
Not
you got
much.
about $4 worth of titanium.
Yeah.
You have about $7 worth of blade steel. You have another
Depending
$5
on-
worth of
depending on-
hardware.
The hell you
You know-
doing to me? Stop! Delete all this. Delete.
But there's one thing that we really need to charge for, because it's our only true commodity. It's our time.
Time. Yeah.
If we can't sell our time for what it's worth, then you know what, we shouldn't be doing what we're doing.
Yeah, that was really enlightening, because I think when people go on like knifelegends.com and see the prices on art knives, and they probably think it's so unfathomable to have over $10,000, and when you hear the amount of time being put into it, it's not as crazy as it seems now, and that's something I certainly was not as informed about before this. So it is interesting.
Some of our most expensive pieces have been plain stainless that have had hours and hours and hours put into it, and so it's a piece that's something that we can't less than a certain amount.
Certainly.
Those are the ones that I gravitate towards, and I give Dave a lot of crap about not liking too much color or anything like that in his knives, but it's the stuff that you guys do in just polished steel. It really just mesmerizes me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, I do like that you guys are offering this sort of full custom thing where you do essentially whatever people want within reason, because it seems like custom knives right now, either you need to do a lot of knives with not a lot of embellishment, or you need to get to that point where you can do a few knives with a lot of embellishment to really exist.
Absolutely.
You know, you see guys like Ferrum Forge, who are, you know, they were a custom duo out of San Diego. If you know, people aren't familiar with them,
Right.
we had them on the podcast, and now they're expanding into ever closer to production knives with some of their collaborations. You know, just to stay afloat, as they explained in one episode they did with us. But you know, there's also people like Lee Lerman, who seems to do okay doing, you know, these incredibly nice one-off custom knives. So I like that you guys have chosen to do one of the two routes there and not try to get somewhere in the middle, because that can be a tough place, it seems, in the custom knife world right now.
It's all about finding your niche, finding your place in the market, in the community when it comes to being a knife maker.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you guys have a lot of longevity then with these new designs coming out. It'll certainly appeal to a new market, because, you know, there's a whole crop of new collectors who only learn about knives through social media, who've never been on any of the forums or never been to a show. And it'll be cool to see them learn a little bit about art knives so that they don't post how much is this or where can I get it on every single post, you know, every single picture you guys do, because that's in your future.
I don't mind that. I don't mind when they ask how much.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
That's true.
yeah, you just have to make sure they actually have the money for it.
It tells you they like it, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, when do you have to start doing a credit check before they get on the list?
Yeah, and it'll just be.
We don't.
Yeah, it's cool to just see some of these skills being brought to the next generation. You know, Eric, with you learning this, because I don't think art knives are necessarily a young man's world. From what I can guess, most of the makers are not, you know, in their 20s and 30s. They're much more experienced.
You know, many fresh faces doing doing
When
these art
when it comes to the old world lockback and carved art piece, he has all the tools. He is, you know, I can't tell the difference between his work and my work.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's the only one. He's the only one I've worked with, and I've had, I don't know, 3 apprentices over the years. One of them has stuck with it. Not one of them has gotten to where Eric is, and it hasn't been easy. Eric has been in the shop with me now for 4 years. You know, it didn't come overnight, and it took a whole drawer full of mistakes.
Absolutely.
It's definitely even for the guys who, you know, the things come easy for. It doesn't come easy.
I mean, there's nothing that you guys are doing that looks easy. Let me tell you that right now.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, everything you do is very permanent. You take a little too much here, well, you got to turn it over and you have to repeat on the other side. Which you know is why I was thinking, you know, maybe we should start doing locks, because we only got to do one half of a frame lock. The other side is just
only got to carve the show
size.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you start doing one thing. It's like now oh, that looks great. Now do it all over again.
Yeah, I know, but see, if we did frame
part.
locks, we wouldn't have to worry about that.
Right.
You only do one side.
Or you make it look pretty, and then you have to cut a whole line through it. Yeah. But, you know, it makes sense, you know, and you guys are building a lot of I'm still surprised at how beefy some of those Axis prototypes actually were. I didn't realize how huge they are. And you know, you might as well throw a frame lock on there and say, look at this, now you can baton through a tree.
That's not, you don't want to advertise that. It's only going to bad things are only going to happen.
Oh, come on. Don't you want to see someone baton through a tree with one of your knives?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Our knives are made to be used. Come on.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
There you go.
Let's
Maybe
have a-
stab through a car door.
It reminds me of a Monty Python skit, cutting through the thickest tree in the forest with a herring.
Yes. That's a great skit. You don't hear too many Monty Python references on this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Got to keep it fresh.
I do. There is. So when you mentioned Tim Herman earlier, I did Google him, and one of the knives that comes up is interesting, to say the least. It's
What's
engraved, And I don't know how else to describe it other than there's a woman performing fellatio upon a golden penis. And it is.
He's got a couple of porn knives.
Is that a thing?
He's great at
No, he did all his own engraving, so you know.
Is that a genre of knives I wasn't familiar with?
Yep.
Absolutely. Erotica.
Dude, there are people that make mechanical watches that perform sexual acts when you wind them up.
I'm gonna have to link this in the show notes for people who have never seen this before. I mean, it's quality engraving,
my
but
girls that way. You just wind them up and they perform a sex. Oh, never mind.
So I'm picturing Tim in the shop, like laughing like Beavis and Butthead as he's engraving, like. But no, you know.
I mean, it's truly a sight to behold.
Tim's favorite thing to engrave were boobies.
Engraving, watercoloring, airbrushing. He was
one
a big-time artist.
Amazing artist.
We've got a couple watercolor pin-up naked ladies around here of his.
Wow.
They're just gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly did a great job here, but I am excited for some people who might not be familiar with this to venture into the wonderful world of porn knives.
You're going to have to send a link, buddy.
I'm going to have to... There's a bunch of them. This is,
It's no longer knife porn, it's porn knives.
yes.
Porn knives, yes.
This is what you guys need to bring back. I don't think we've... I think this trend may have waned a little bit in the last couple of years. Maybe we need to bring porn knives back.
Or just put tits on the knife. You know, that's it. Done.
One of our next investments is an engraving machine, so I can start practicing engraving. I'll get on that as soon as I can.
Yeah, when you want to talk about a skill that not a lot of people have.
Pneumatic engraver, excuse me, I spoke wrong.
Yeah, an engraving machine does the engraving for you. A pneumatic engraver, you have to reuse it, you know, like a pen or a pencil.
Wow.
Right.
That's a great skill to have, because engraving will never stop being incredibly cool. That's timeless. That's I would love to have an engraved knife, but you know, I can't even imagine.
Money.
Yes, money, but money.
Maybe if you stop losing your pen every year.
That's hell. I could lose a pen for 10 years and not even be able to afford one bolster engraving. Especially not of this fantastic porn scene. So, like, I'm never gonna be able to afford this.
Which one are you looking at?
Let me send it.
To know.
Yeah, let me send it in the Hangouts chat. It is remarkable. There we go. It's in the Hangouts chat, or it's sending right now. It's there.
There we go.
Let's all go look at the porn knife.
I mean,
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know that one.
it's graphic. That's the best way to describe it.
That's graphic.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
But look how
You
beautiful
weren't
the
kidding.
boobies are. The boobies are perfect. I'm telling you.
it's a gilded penis. There's no other way to describe it.
Mhm.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't remember that one.
this. Yeah, it's
Looks like the picture has it laying on some bathroom tissue. I wonder
Yeah,
why.
I was gonna say, what is that? Some bounty?
that genuinely looks like a fancy paper towel. Oh, guys, you haven't seen the reverse yet. There's another side.
There's some sort of STD with that penis. It looks kind of yellow.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Well, that's what they just have to get the flashlight that we talked about last podcast that just vaporizes all
Yes.
STDs.
Flashlight
There you go.
sterilization. Yeah.
This is something we've. Let me show you guys the reverse side in case you are curious
Please.
if it is.
this is ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
And you can see where the
Oh
the
my
release for the
God.
auto is.
Oh, I see. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Wow.
I was going to tell you it was an auto.
I'm not sure what that
Oh,
face she's making is, though.
That's well, there's a gold tip inside her.
Yeah, it can't be good. I
She can feel herself getting heavy metal poisoning.
yikes. Man, this has been awesome. I'm so glad I learned about this. This is
God.
definitely what I'm
damn.
going to show all my friends now who are not into knives. Be like, oh, you guys want to see a cool knife?
I want to know the guy who buys this and just like is, yeah, this is the knife for me.
Well, I do know who bought that knife.
Oh.
Wait, no way.
Oh my
Really?
gosh, no way. See, you've been holding out on this the whole time.
Well, I can't say, you know, these collectors, they like to keep it to themselves, you know.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Mm.
Yeah. can only imagine how much buffing compound we'll say is on it.
Oh,
Okay, this is the exact content we usually get to, and we didn't expect it to go here.
Now the podcast has actually started.
Yeah.
This is more. This is way more typical.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I'm since the guy's gonna remain anonymous, I'm picturing like some really filthy old man, really filthy, but he, like really filthy. I don't know if I stressed the fact that he's probably incredibly filthy.
well, this was apparently from wow, oh my god, my New England accent just came out so badly.
What?
When I was about to say Boston Art Knife Classic. Yeah. I didn't know this was a thing, the Boston Art Knife Classic. That is where some of these porn knives were sold, and I can't believe that was so close to me, and yet I was not able to secure a porn knife of my own.
You really dropped the ball on that one.
I see what he did there.
Oh, this is wonderful. this is a skill that I wish he had passed on to you when you had worked
seriously.
with Tim Herman.
He's always telling.
Oh.
So was that knife commissioned? Do you know? Was it something that just came out of Tim's head? No pun. Or was it
No, I believe that was a commissioned piece.
Can you imagine what that conversation must have looked like?
I'd really love to have a big fat golden cock in her mouth.
Yes.
I cannot believe it. Well, I'll just make you a promise. In 20 to 30 years, when I can actually afford a knife from you guys, I will definitely ask for an engraving of similar style.
He's not kidding.
I genuinely. It's 30 years. Put me down in the books for I don't know. Let's call it 2050. Yeah. I'll come calling for one of these.
I'll be around, yeah.
Oh my god. I'm still in shock right now. Like, that is way more than I was ever expecting to see.
Yeah. Well, it's been an eye-opening podcast for me in a number of ways. I've learned so much about the art knife world that I did not expect to learn.
Are these images going to be available for the listeners?
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
Oh, so I feel like we wouldn't do them justice if they didn't see this, and obviously we should tell them where to find you guys as well, so they can see the super cool stuff you guys have been working on. And
let's not just focus on the naked talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why did you not go to the woman before? What?
Yeah, that would have been a crazy way to start out. So I started working with this guy who likes to carve, people giving fellatio on their knives, and that's how I started doing what I'm doing. It would have been a way different start to this podcast.
We would have never gotten to this point. That we would have been stuck
Tim
on that.
Tim not knives anymore, but he'd be a kick on the podcast.
Yeah. What's funny is I've seen his work before and never saw that stuff.
No.
Yeah.
You should, some of the stuff he's done, no one else has even come close to doing.
I wonder why.
I'm just talking about materials he's used. He's used natural Australian opal as inlay, sliced pieces of it, and use it as inlay.
Wow.
It's so fragile. It's so difficult to do. Some of the things he's done is just crazy.
Do you prefer
Working with
synthetic materials or natural materials for your pieces?
natural material.
Is it even with all the
Natural.
even with all the complexities it adds with warping or
Pearl, any kind of lapidary, any kind of rock or mineral, jade, lapis, petersite, charite, mother of pearl, gold, white, gold, brown, black, incus clam. I much prefer the natural materials.
no? Wow.
Agate.
Ironically, at the same time that the New York show is going on, the Lapidary Society is doing a gem show here in the Philadelphia area. And last year, I was actually laid up with I had surgery on my ankle, and I was just getting up and at 'em again. I couldn't make it to the New York show, but I took a ride out to the Lapidary Society show, and I had a blast there. Like,
I bet.
I've seen some amazing stuff. So, I started picking up a whole bunch of different pieces of different stones. I went with my two friends there. One of them, she makes jewelry for a living. So I went with her, and it was just a crazy time. So I imagine that would be a great place to procure a lot of materials for knife making.
Oh yeah. Well, Eric and I, we try to grab materials from where we've been. I mean, last 2 years we've been in Beijing.
Whoa.
For the Beijing Night Show, and we've come back from there. Last year, we came back with some incredible lavender Burmese jade.
Wow.
These are trimmings. I found trimmings from the guys who were cutting the bracelets. And these are all the pieces from inside, which are just perfect for slicing up for knife handle.
I mean, your average knife maker does not travel the world to get materials for their knives. That's really cool. What's
travel the world to get material for our knives? We travel material
to sell knives.
Yeah.
No. Spread the good word. Say man. Spread the good word on knives.
Oh man.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was
folding knife bandwagon. They're all into their fixed blades.
Yes, let's get them on the folding knife bandwagon, as everyone should be.
Exactly. We were over there preaching the blade gospel.
Well, that's the gospel I can get behind.
Me too.
But while we're there,
There you go.
I didn't even know there was a knife show out there. That's certainly cool. But hey,
that had to have been a crazy trip. I can't imagine what a knife show in Beijing is like. Is it like a knife show here, but with even more people?
Yeah, pretty much for the most part. A lot of the first year was so packed in there, and they were treating us like we were celebrities. Everybody wanted a picture or an autograph or into the white guy with blonde hair and blue eyes type of deal.
So much money. I could make so much money off myself.
All the big collectors' wives wanted pictures with me, and
I think it's because they thought you were Chris Hemsworth.
Not just.
Oh my gosh. Maybe a mix of the two.
I'll take it. Why not? They both get laid.
Yeah, why not, man? Seriously.
Did you really just say that?
Yeah.
This guy's talking about getting laid a lot. He's got the most beautiful girlfriend. Oh my god.
I don't know. I mean, when you're a superstar in China, what else are you gonna do?
Oh god.
Now we're in the weeds. But this is usually where we end up. So this is kind of
yeah, and it always seems to be about China. So there you go.
This is a comfortable place for us.
China. Wow.
Yeah, but
your Chinese-made knives, eh?
Listen now.
Yeah.
There's some nice
Brian,
knives coming in out of China, actually.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
true.
from the production world, that's where a lot of the interesting stuff is happening right now. Custom certainly.
Not only that, but we have a in the works where we have a couple art knives that may be reproduced in China.
Well,
So what you're saying is there's going to be a Tuch knives model manufactured in China.
Very limited number production run, and they're going to make them as close to my knife as possible.
wow.
My mind is
It's
blown.
It's not going to be inexpensive. I don't know if you remember when they did a Ron Lake model. What's the company makes all the swords? And,
I'm not sure we like where this is going.
Oh, Hanwei?
yeah,
Yeah, Ka
Yeah.
Siberia.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they did a Ron Lake folder.
and they did a bang up job.
Interesting.
That was a really nicely made replica.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it now. I didn't know this existed. Wow.
Yeah, if this company can do the same with a couple of my models, I'm out there.
That's
They are not
that's big news.
Not going to be signed. They are not. They are going to be distinctly
Production
different
knives.
than
Oh,
than
really?
But it's a way for people to have something that they enjoy, that they've admired, and not have to wait 5 years or save all that money or
Wow.
make me feel guilty for building them. I don't know.
I mean, have you guys been keeping up with a lot of the the modern Chinese manufacturers that are putting out higher end knives right now?
I haven't really. Well, when you say keeping up,
I
with,
should be specific, like Riot knives or Wee knives or anything like that. And have you ever approached or been approached by them to make something?
No, have not. I wouldn't be opposed to it. But no, I've seen the stuff that Riyadh is doing for Todd Begg. There's some very fine manufacturing going on over there.
Seriously.
It's seriously manufacturing that we used to do here, but I don't know.
Yep.
I guess we're into finance more than anything else anymore.
Yeah, well, this is a topic that we cover quite a bit in our podcasts. If you ever guys go back and listen to some of the stuff we talk about, I mean, it's right along these lines, and like where does the line drawn and that kind of thing. But it's interesting. I mean, I've never even thought in a million years that the guy. I mean, I understand the idea of getting your design out there that's a good idea, but I always feel like you guys are in such a different place with your market and things like that. And I understand if you're trying to broaden that horizon, but it's a strange thing for me to.
This was brought to us, and it became completely out of left field. Who wants to reproduce art knives, high-end art? I mean, I think it's fantastic that they actually want to try. We don't even know if they'd be successful in being able to do it.
Yeah.
But their deal was they'll pay us anyway.
Well, that doesn't hurt.
You know,
the one that
they want to try. They really want to try, and that is, I think, is the coolest thing there is. Try to do it.
That's got to make you feel good, you know.
Well, there's only so much that you can do with a machine when it comes to these carved pieces.
Sure.
Access machines, blah blah blah. But still, when it comes down to it, it's going to come down to handwork.
Wow, I can't wait to see what happens with that.
Yeah, this could be very forward thinking on their part, because I mean, the market's got to go somewhere new eventually, and maybe back towards art knives, you know, away from tactical stuff.
Those could end up in a numbered edition in a jewelry store.
Yeah,
if there's success.
Branching out is never a bad thing.
It's not much different when you think about it from like the William Henry models, right? Isn't that kind of like what he does?
Yeah, those are like custom-ish.
When I say he, I don't even know if he's an actual person.
William Henry has done a fantastic job. The only thing they are lacking is competition.
Yeah, there's no one else that does what they do. They're basically like production art knives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've gone after the jewelry market. They've been very successful. But if they had some competition, their sales would go up 20% at least.
So, if you guys had a production knife company, what would you call it? Touch of Tuch?
Probably Tuch Knives. I don't know. I have no idea.
Or how about Touch Yourself?
No, I probably have to find one of these artsy people to come up with a whole branding campaign for me before I could answer that.
Yeah, the slogan could be "When I think about you,
You're off pun duty.
Exactly.
I knew this episode was going to be a disaster with the puns because
listen,
William and Eric
don't let them get you down. I think it's fantastic.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, of course the dad here likes the dad jokes.
Is Touch Knives not a good enough name for a production company?
I didn't even hear it.
Spot on.
What was it? Maybe it all broke up at that time. What did you say?
Oh, convenient.
Touch Knives. Yeah, that's their name.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah,
that is your name.
They don't need a bad pun from you, Levon. You've already screwed up naming one knife.
Oh, man. Oh, that's right, I did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I wonder if you guys will get a cease and desist from Benchmade about the Axis name.
Oh, shit, yeah. You guys are fucked.
Is that a thing?
The Axis.
Yes.
It's possible.
Oh, it's unlocked. It doesn't matter.
Oh, shit. Don't they actually have a model called the Axis Flipper? Yep, you guys are doomed.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'd be famous if that happened.
Yes. Yeah, right.
Ain't no such thing as bad publicity.
People are very defensive about that.
That's what I keep telling them, Brian.
Maybe we'll have to look into that. What do you guys think would be a better name then if we can't take Axis?
Don't ask Levon. He's already named a knife that got Brian in trouble. So,
listen, it's a great friggin' name. I don't care who says it. And I've named 2 knives, by the way.
What other one?
Yeah, what were the knives?
Okay,
Slut.
John. No, I didn't name the slut. That's all John Gray. I named the what's it called? The splitter.
Oh,
The splitter.
The Splitter, and the Nemesis, but that was a disaster.
Not the knife, just the name.
The knife is incredible. The naming turned out to be entertaining at least.
Bad as me. Yeah, that's almost as bad as me naming my fabrication company Harbinger.
Is that a thing?
Harbinger is usually an evil connotation.
Oh yeah, like it's something that's going to be bringing, like a harbinger of doom.
The bluebird is the harbinger of spring, but it didn't quite go that way. But
I didn't expect them to be so metal, Dave.
Yeah, that's a great name.
Yeah. Harbinger. Sorry.
Uh,
this is a
got a
fancy.
DBA,
I don't even care how this podcast turns out. I'm just having a blast.
yeah.
I think it's turning out great.
Are you guys having fun? As long as you guys are having fun. That's what this is all
Better
about.
than talking knives with a bunch of guys.
When you do
Throw some corn knives into the mix, and then
Yeah.
all shit hits the fan.
yeah, the only thing better than talking knives with a bunch of guys is talking about knives with nudity with a bunch of guys.
I don't know. Flinging cold cuts on strippers' asses is pretty fun too.
Oh,
What?
Portland. That's what you got to come to Portland for. We got more strip clubs per capita than anywhere in the world.
Talk about a sausage party.
Well, that's pretty
and
much.
microbrew.
And microbrews, yes.
Yeah, that I can get
Strippers,
behind.
that can go wrong. And knives.
Yeah, there's a few companies out there.
Does it say you can carry anything you want?
Yeah, I had a friend that visited Eugene recently, and I saw the pictures, and I was just like, this can't be a real place. Oregon can't be this pretty.
Well, it really isn't.
But he did a good job with the pictures, at least. But,
Yeah, Photoshopping,
yeah.
they have the Photoshop workshops out here.
I believe that. Guys, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Very informative.
Seriously.
Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Is there anything you guys want to get out there? Tell us where we can reach you. All that good stuff.
You can reach us on Instagram, Facebook, touchknives.com. Everything's Touch Knives, TUCH. We got a YouTube channel just getting started. I got a first video of us getting some of our moving process going on, but we're going to be getting more in-depth behind the scenes, work in progress videos, things of that nature.
Possibly including a 360-degree camera.
Oh, that would be
Oh,
cool.
cool.
The camera pretty soon. But yeah, we're just happy to be a part of this new community. We really like to meet all the people that are collecting these knives, and anyone that wants one, feel free to contact us and get on our books. We'll get you a knife made.
Very cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you guys at New York. I can't wait to get my hands on one of these knives. You're going to bring any with you?
We'll definitely have a few axes. Going to work on having maybe a dual action or two.
No, you can't have a dual action in New Jersey.
Oh, that's true. We're
No,
not
you
really
can't do
supposed
that.
to trade laws and whatnot. But
I swear that knife's not a switchblade.
we never know for sure what we're going to bring until we're getting on the plane. Everything can come down to the last minute sometimes. So.
Anything else, if there's anything anyone would like to specifically, let us know. We'll do our best to bring it.
Gotcha. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you, except Dave's going to be not there.
I'll be in
But that's
Baltimore,
okay.
unfortunately. Yeah. Sorry.
Wasn't that a Cheech and Chong routine? Dave's not here.
Yes, it was. You have no idea how accurate that statement actually is.
Yeah. I'm going to show my age here and say I have no fucking idea what that is. I know who
Oh,
Cheech and
God.
Chong are. I do not know the skit at all.
He's showing his age.
Did you get him a copy of Big Bamboo?
Yep.
Sure. All right.
Well, as usual, guys, thank you all for listening. Check out our website, knifenuts.net. As always, I'm Levon. You can find me on Instagram, MetalLevon.
And I am Jake. And if I live, I'll beat Whiskey Pickle Jake another day.
I'm Dave. You can find me at _Misanthropia on Instagram, Misanthropia, Blade Forums, and YouTube.
And I'm Brian. You can get me on Instagram. I'm going to let you just contact me this time. I'm not going to be a douche.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Appreciate
10
it, guys.
episodes. 10 episodes in the box.
Yeah. Double digits.
Ooh.
All right.
Thank you again, William and Aaron.